The pledge last time.
Is that?
Who did the pledge
I
last
think
time?
I did.
Okay, then we'll let you do the
Sure.
pledge. Okay. This meeting of the Blinn Board of Education will come to order. Mr. Lemberg, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I
Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Mr. Superintendent.
The first item on the agenda this evening, Mr. President, is modifications and adoption of the agenda. We do have one modification on item 2 under superintendent's report. We're going to take that off the agenda. Mr. Cedillo not being able to be here tonight, we'll add it at a later date.
Okay.
And other than that, I recommend that you adopt the agenda with that modification.
We have a recommendation for the superintendent to adopt the agenda to delete item F2 from the superintendent's report. Do I have a motion for that?
I so move that we adopt the agenda with the exception of F2 as recommended by the superintendent to take it off the agenda.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemberg. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the modified agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Mr. Superintendent.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. President, is approval of consent items. The first one being the AP report for 01/19/23 to 02/08/2023. The second being Board of Education regular board meeting minutes from 01/24 through 01/24/2023. I recommend that you approve these consent items.
We have a recommendation for from the superintendent for consideration of approval of consent items AP report 01/19/23 to 02/08/2023, and the Board of Education regular board meeting minutes 01/24/2023. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the consent items as read by the superintendent and also read by the president of the board.
We have a motion from Mr. Cordova. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Mr. Garley. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of the consent item AP report 01/19/23 and 02/08/2023, the Board of Education regular board meeting minutes 1/24/2023, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Superintendent.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. President, is open forum. We have no request for open forum this evening, so we'll move on to item E, recognition. This evening, we would like to recognize BHS athletic trainer Heather Doc Juarez, I guess is the correct term. And we have Miss Sonia Lawson, BHS principal, and BHS athletic coordinator Steven Contreras to present Miss Juarez. Yeah, you got to go up there, Coach.
Good evening, President, members of the board, superintendent, community members. We're recognizing Miss Juarez, Doc as we know her, for some heroic acts that she helped with a client that was at our basketball game last week. And through her quick action, we were able to not have an emergency issue become more serious. And I don't want to go into a lot of details about the particular person, but we are very thankful that we have her on staff and appreciate all that she does for our community and for our kids. And so, Heather, thank you so much for being you and for contributing all that you do. We appreciate you.
So the act that she did was a person from Grants who fell ill and fainted, and she acted immediately and stayed with the person till EMS arrived. And this is not the first time that she's done that. She's done this on several different occasions. So she's really a great asset to have on our athletic department.
In addition, I'd like to make one of the fans from Grants wrote a letter to Ms. Lawson and Coach Contreras, and they sent it to me, talking about just the effort that you have put in. Thank you for we talk about making people feel welcome, whether it doesn't, what is that? Whatever it may be. And so I thought maybe you brought your own music with you. Whatever it may be, and thank you for making sure that visitors to our campus are safe as well.
Of course, thank you. I appreciate it.
Ms. Juarez, I too want to say how important it is for us to have a trainer. We are very lucky that in our history, we've had nothing but good trainers. And I'm so glad that you fit into that mold. Thank you for what you do and what you do for our athletes.
Thank you.
Athletic trainers are so important. I took a course at University of New Mexico years ago under Todine, and they named even the stadium in the back of it. And he taught us an awful lot. And I was making A's in the class, and I did a tape job, and he said, now, this young man can play. And I said, no, if I'm the coach, this young man's sitting on the bench. He says, you'll be a losing coach. I said, well, I guess I'll be a losing coach. After that, I made B's in his class. But at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, we had an athletic trainer there, and he wasn't doing a very good job. So I said, cut the tape off of me. I'll take myself. He says, what do you know about it? I said, I had Todine's course at the University of New Mexico. He says, he's the president of our association. I said, okay. And he retaped me, and he taped everybody good after that. He could do it. He was just being sloppy. But all the hours that you put in, I see you at all the games and so on. Thank you for putting in all those hours and being dedicated to her. And then all the injuries that you have to deal with to try and get our guys back online.
Right.
You have a very important job, and thank you for all you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I also want to thank you. I used to tape when I was coaching basketball, and I was not very good at it, but I got better, but it's just hard. And it really helps the coaches pregame
Right.
when they get taped and everything. And then, of course, when you're there during the game or any emergency situation like you just, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to add something if I could. Another example of her commitment to our athletes. Obviously, you know the hours she puts in early in the day till late in the evening, but this last Saturday, our wrestling team was at the regional tournament in Socorro. She didn't have to go. She asked if she could go because we had a couple of our wrestlers injured. Well, while there, she was the only athletic trainer there, so if another kid needed help, she was willing to help them as well. So and she asked if she could go. She didn't have to be there, so just another example of what she does for our kids.
That's very good.
Anybody else?
My comment's gonna be pretty selfish. I'm pretty easy to spot in the crowd, and I've got lots of high blood, lots of high cholesterol. So when I go to an event, I feel a lot safer now. So please, just keep an eye on me, all right? If I go down, I need you there.
All right.
Thank you for everything.
Anything to call attention to yourself. Any
But,
offense.
but we know that everyone's calling attention to the profession because of what has recently happened in the NFL.
Right.
The one thing we all need to know is that you guys have been doing this before all that happened. Now it's coming out, which is good. Now people know what you have been doing prior to when it became popular. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
I just want to echo everything everybody else said. Thank you very much for it.
Come up so we can shake your hand, please.
Right. Do I go in front? Yeah.
Oh,
Right in front. Thank you very much for everything you do.
Appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
You're gonna take a picture, man?
it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
They want to-
Congratulations. Good job. Thanks.
There we go.
Let's,
Okay.
maybe, no, she has Google so she can remove me.
I do, actually, I have a pixel, I can erase you from the picture, Mr. Tanner. That wasn't a threat.
It was definitely a
All
rest
right.
me.
That's fine. There we go. Thank you, guys.
Maybe not you two.
Mr. Superintendent, oh, I'm sorry.
Next item on the agenda, we have the superintendent's reports. The first one being the New Mexico School Board Association Board Institute, February 2nd through the 4th, 2023. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Before we go on, I have a point of order question.
Okay?
So it just came to my attention that we transposed two numbers on the action items. Do we need to do a modification on that?
We transposed in terms of,
The fund number? Action item number 2, it reads NMGRT Fund 24,700. It should be 27,400. Do we need
I
to go
think
back?
that's a typographical error that can be,
Okay,
that we can, when we make the motion, we'll just make the motion correct, and that will correct the record
Typographical.
as to how it is.
okay. Just wanted to make
Mr.
sure.
Lambert, do you agree?
Yeah, we could
Okay.
correct that. We should be able to correct that. That's just a typographical error.
So as we all know, Mr. President, we were in Santa Fe was it last week? Yeah, it was, right? Time goes by fast. I tell you what, it's gotten crazy. Much better this year than last year because we didn't have to fight the snow. We were able to make it in a timely fashion, in a safe fashion. The first day was spent visiting with our legislators and being able to meet individually with them. I found that very helpful. You know, one of my hobbies during legislative season becomes watching, whether it be the committee meetings or the floor hearings in live or watching them in recording, and being able to talk to people and get more information, because we always have questions, and one of the things we're trying to do with all the different proposed changes is get an idea of what direction that's going, so that we can be more proactive in our planning and have an idea of what we need to be looking for. Found that very helpful the first day. The second day, we started the morning off with a bunch of presentations from different people. I won't steal from your all's thunder. I did find it interesting that we had a new secretary. For those that haven't noticed, we're on number 4 during the current administration. And just trying to figure out which direction is she going in and what her priorities may be. In the afternoon, while you guys were in trainings, in breakout sessions, the superintendents met as a whole and again talked about the different legislation that's going on. And to me, it's like a superintendent's PLC, to where this is what we think, this is what we think, this is how it's going to affect us, and just being able to share with others or get an idea of what concerns are. And so that was very helpful. As far as the learning part of it, Saturday was the best time for me because that's when the lawyers come in. And that, you know, I went to 2 with, actually I can't remember her first name. Last name's Castile. Mr. Tucker, you were with me. Do you remember her first name?
I do not.
She did a good job.
But she did,
And-
yes, sir.
And a lot of good
Laura.
information. Laura, thank you. A lot of good information regarding Title IX. A lot of good information regarding Title IX, because that's a difficult one. Man, you think you know everything, and then you sit in that meeting and like, I didn't know that. And so then you bring it back and make sure that we adjust as we go, and as we add new information, how are we sharing that? And I felt that 2 out of the 3 on Saturday were very, very good. The last one, not so good. But overall, a good visit over there.
Any questions from Mr. Sanchez?
No.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. President, we have board reports. The first one being the NMSBA Board Institute Conference, February 2nd through 4th, 2023.
Anybody wanna start?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay, Mr. Lambert?
One of the things that we always do is I visited with 3 of our legislatures in regards to the funding for new construction, and then my pet project of eventually getting the archery program started for those and the kids to just get on the bus and attend school and get on the bus in the evening at the middle school and high school. One of the classes that was the very last one that was really brought things to my mind was, the title was Reduce Your Risk of Life Safety Issues and Construction Defects, and was put on by Crown Point Engineering. And what this group does, if there's leaky roofs after a school's been built or cracked cement or any type of fault. So they go in and take a look at this and then make a report to the board. And they had two examples there of buildings, one with leaky roof, the other with cracking cement and other faults. And then the board went to the construction company, and who ended up paying for it? Well, it's very important, the bond company. In fact, the bond company in one case even hired the construction company that had made the errors to go back in and correct the errors. So that's one thing that we really need to be aware of and take a look at, is to be sure that all construction that we have done, and we're going to do one tonight, even with those air handlers at the high school, just to be sure that that company is bonded. And the other courses were very good that we had. The one on evaluation of the superintendent and so forth was good, and so forth. A very good conference, learned a lot, and hopefully the state legislature will help us out in those areas that we talked to them about.
Can I say something, Mr. President, to Mr. Lindberg? Just so you know, Ms. Martinez, the FFA sponsor up at Bowen High School, I was talking to her last night, and she was asking for guidance on how she could possibly get an archery program going
Oh, really?
with her FFA students. So maybe you guys can team up together and
Okay.
get that happening.
You bet. That'd be good.
I got on the website, and there is a fund. Albuquerque was having theirs, and so they gave us the website, and I wrote it down to give to Mr. Lindberg. And there is funds for that the outdoor recreation from the state will give to schools to start a archery program.
Good.
I'll get that for you.
That'd
If
be
you
great.
share that with me, Mr. Garley, I can make sure Ms. Martinez gets it.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful if we could do that. Because those students will have more loyalty to our schools. And also, in order to be on the team, they have to make their grades. They also can compete by internet with other schools like in Ohio, Kentucky, across the nation, or here in the state. They go to this championship in Albuquerque. They could go, if they're good enough, one year they went to Nashville, and they run it for 3 days, 24 hours a day, and they have 5,000 to 10,000 participants, and they can win scholarships and so forth. And in the presentation that I got at Nashville, it really did help out with the loyalty to the school, and believe it or not, improvement of grades, because you can't, it's like any other team. If you have one F, you can't be, you can still go to practice like with the other teams, but you can't participate. So that is it's a really good thing for our school, if we can get that.
Mr. Garley?
Okay. Mr. Cordova and I went through the same one, so I'm gonna do 5 and he's gonna do the other 5. These are the 10 things board members wish the public understood about school board. Okay, the first one, well, just an introduction. We would like the public to understand what board members can and cannot do. Board members can also feel pressure to address certain demands from employees or parents. Can do that. We will identify some of the common issues, and then we will then discuss strategies, and that's what they gave us. First one is, we take an oath of office to follow the law and adhere to a code of conduct. Okay, and it gives you a New Mexico State statute that we have to follow, and we always get that at the beginning of our new term or whoever is elected. Okay. The second one was we follow the Governmental Conduct Act, GCA, which establishes the ethical principles of public service, prohibits certain official acts, prohibits disclosure of confidential information, and imposes penalties for any violation. The third one is ethical principles under the GCA. We treat the position as a public trust. We advance only public interest, not personal benefits. We earn the confidence of the public. We maintain integrity and act ethically. We fully disclose real and potential conflicts of interest. And we do not receive money, anything of value or a promise in exchange for promise performance of a public act. And then the GECA's Government Conduct Act, comprehensive coverage, has a lot of things, but mostly ethical principles of public service, prohibit political activities, official acts of personal financial interest which are prohibited, and disqualification from office act providing a penalty, honorary, prohibited, disclosure of outside employment and prohibited employment. And the fifth one is confidential information, contracts involving public officers or employees, contracts involving former public officers or employees, prohibited bidding, certain business sales to the employees or state agencies and local government agencies, prohibited contributions and financial service to contractors, enforcement procedures, and criminal penalties. These are the first 5 that we have to follow, and we'd like the public to know that, so, you know,
As,
we can say no.
I'm glad that the boardroom is really full so the public can know this and understand it. And hopefully, I know there's online is, really full on this, so I hope they understand that being on the board is not, people ask you when you go to Walmart and they start asking you all these questions. Anyway, one of the things that we've had before, we have a lot of public comment up here. And people wonder, well, why don't we comment on what they say? And it's part of the rule. We do not comment on board comments. That's number 6. The agenda setting is actually made by the superintendent along with the board president. And board members can add to the agenda as long as they agree and as long as there's enough time to put it in. And we have direction through the district, through vision, mission, and policy, which means that there should be, we have goals. The goals should be simple and they should be measurable so they can be measured and observed. They should be attainable. Goals should be attainable and that it's something within the superintendent's control. That's what the board should realize. And that it should be time-driven, that it has a time frame. And again, a lot of people think that one board member has a lot of power. It's one board member doesn't have any power. You have to act as a body. Everybody has to agree on it, or as a majority, at least. And the last thing is, which I'm not really clear on, but collective bargaining. School administration they assign their representatives, and the union selects their own representatives. So that's how the collective bargaining works, and there's some, and I've discussed it with Mr. Sanchez.
We have some items to discuss regarding that.
So, anyway, those are the 10 things that I wish the public would understand, and as far as the rest of the conference, it was a good conference. They discussed a lot on, or somewhat on CTE, which I really hope that we can get a better programming on CTE, bigger programming, I guess. I think that's a really important thing for our high school. Right now we do have a good program up there. We have a good building, and I know that we're going to be voting on some items that belong to the CTE tonight, which is exhaust fans for the welding shop, which is good. And one complaint I do have, or maybe 2. I know that they mentioned there that you go to the website, New Mexico School Board website, and all the presentations are there. If you go to the presentation, the only presentation that's on there is the beginning of the opening.
And sometimes you can't download them.
And so and this has been a week and a half, and one of the presenters said, all this information is going to be on the website, if not this week, next week, which was last week. And the other complaint I have is I've always thought the food was great, and it wasn't bad, the food wasn't bad,
It's not very good.
except for the green chili and the red chili. They need to get somebody to teach them how to cook red and green chili like they do here. Anyway, with
That's
that,
the biggest complaint we all had at
So
our table.
I do want to address your first complaint, because I have the same complaint. I did have Cindy call last week to see when is it going to
I'll
be up.
scramble, I mean, I can't hardly understand my notes.
Well, from the last one, I tried to get on and I couldn't download them. I could not download a single
Even
presentation.
just before I came here, I looked again, and there's a thing there that says previous presentations from previous.
Yeah.
There's one there from December 22, I think.
Right.
But this one's not on there yet.
What they told Cindy was, we put them up as soon as we get them. We're still waiting on these people to get them. I mean, this is your all's organization, so I would recommend that you tell,
So it's our
it's
our
NMSBA,
responsibility.
It's our responsibility.
to let your leadership
No, that's why
know.
I'm saying to the whole public here, there, you know, this room is so full of people.
All right.
Mister,
Mr. President, I'm going to discuss just one that I attended, and it's probably the elephant in the state. Parents' attempts to opt out of curriculum and of teachers, including the review of CRT and parents' rights. So, just so everyone will be clear on this, here are the facts. Number one, the only opt-out by statute in the state of New Mexico is per school and per district. Those are the only things by statute that a parent can opt out of. Now, if a district has allowed parents to opt out of a class, a lesson, or change of school, that is on the district. They are not following the statute of the state of New Mexico. Now, why is that important? It's important because of what everyone, or a lot of people, have produced with a lot of propaganda, and I said it, propaganda, when it comes to the new social studies curriculum. There's some sort of thinking that parents can just simply go to a school and says, nope, you're not going to teach this, and to my child. Can a parent do that? A parent can. And can there be an accommodation? There is. There's Los Lunas. There's Socorro. There is Bernalillo. Those are the options by statute. Not making this up. And I'm turning my phone off, it's buzzing already. That is the law. So, with that said, there were people in the conference that said, wait a minute, what about when we talked about sex ed and stuff like that, they made accommodations? Yes, people did. They did make accommodations like that. There are also accommodations for religious reasons. There are. Those types of things need to be established prior to. You can't have a manifestation of having something to come up in high school when the same type of curriculum was taught for the past 9 years. You're going to have some sort of background knowledge. You're going to have some sort of history with that. Now, if you become anointed with some sort of celestial calling, you're going to have to prove it. But again, for the record, from a lawyer, the opt-out for parents is per school site and district.
let me
Sir.
ask you a question, Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir.
Since you're our resident wannabe lawyer,
Ah,
as per what they have said in that conference.
correct.
Because we have, in this district, allowed people to opt out.
We have a policy.
Okay, now, does that, if we have that policy, now does that mean that we, prior takes over, because who decides? I've not read our policy, so I will plead that
And
that's my fault.
that's going to be part of our policy committee meeting.
Okay, well, because I think this is important because this is something that's happening nationwide,
Yes.
and we're seeing it on the news regularly. And so it's important that we let our constituents know this is how Belen Schools is going to do it. So we need we're going to adopt the purchase of a curriculum, not saying that we're approving a curriculum, we're just adopting a purchase of one. And I don't want anybody to jump to conclusions. We are purchasing, not adopting. That's two different things. So that's why I wanted to, because that's important that we know what our legal standing is and also what we as a board believe, okay?
And Mr. President, to understand this better, I had the same problem with trying to find this type of information on the website. I've contacted the attorney personally, and without a purchase order needed, she's not looking at me. So there's no purchase order needed, and we're not going to be charged. He's going to send me, as soon as he can, what he presented at the.
Be helpful.
Right, so we can all have it, and as soon as we get it, I think the board and the administrators need to take a really good look at this.
Well, I think it starts off with policy, because as I said
That's right.
earlier, we do have a policy, and I really appreciate what Mr. President says. Policy has to be strong. That's what we have to hold our hat on.
Right.
And so, as we look at this, and I'm gonna try not to go down a rabbit hole, is we have told our constituents that as we get to the end of the process, which we're approaching with the social studies standards, that we will have another public meeting. And that part, what you talked about, Mr. President, needs to be part of that. So we have an existing policy. How do we work to be transparent in that, and including what you said also, Mr. Tucker? It's not opting out of a class. It's not opting out of a class. In my mind, it's having that communication existing between the school and the family so that parents can make decisions in a timely fashion regarding their students' education and say, this just doesn't fit where we're at. And this is my opinion. This is not.
Along with that comes to the regulation in the policy.
Exactly.
Because we have to be if we're going to allow them to opt out, then what are they going to have their child do to equal that particular objective that's met that day?
And that's exactly,
Okay.
and I go back in my mind, and so we're thinking out loud right now, is those that opt out of Christmas coloring activities, Halloween coloring activities. We provide an alternative assignment that meets the objective, and that's our job to come figure that out.
Mr. Cordova?
I'm just not understanding that, you mentioned that we're purchasing this program, but we're not adopting it.
There's two different, a curriculum that the state has put out. We're not adopting a curriculum. We're buying a curriculum that we will utilize to meet our needs and what our particular goals are. In other words, it's going to have a lot of stuff that we're not going to use. Am I correct, Ms. Sanchez?
It's a possibility.
But what I'm saying is that we,
Page to page, we'll do a unit design and see how
right,
much.
we are purchasing, we are not, because we have, our role is to approve any change in our curriculum. That is our role. So what I'm saying, Mr. Cordova, is that we're purchasing something now for our teachers. This has nothing to do with what we as a board have to do to adopt a curriculum that this will meet.
Yes. We're purchasing, you're gonna approve the resource that will help teachers and students meet
Right.
the requirements of the anticipated curriculum that has been put out by the state.
Right. Because we have not got that from the state yet.
Mr. President, one other one that is really important, I went to student discipline. The one thing that they really pointed out with us, and because this body actually approves certain things when it comes to a hearing officer, with a hearing officer, they made sure to tell the boards that make sure that those hearing officers answer two questions, not just one, especially for any child that has an IEP. And that is, one, if the incident or the discipline is a manifestation of the child's disability? You have to answer that question. But the other question is, did the district and was everything with the IEP followed? If that is a no, that child cannot go to a hearing. And there's been some litigation in some other states about that. So we gotta make sure, I'm just reiterating, that that answer is a no, a solid no. And with
Anybody else?
that, thank you, sir.
Mine will be very limited. I want to talk about one. And that was, one from Rio Doce Schools. They presented one, bringing back the fun while addressing learning loss. And, it was, they asked us some questions and they did a real good presentation. What they're doing is, in their elementary and middle schools, in their elementary schools, they're using math as a pullout for every student. But in that math, it must all be manipulatives. Nothing but manipulatives, K through 6, in that pullout. Like they did a survey and they found that people enjoyed PE, they enjoyed music, they enjoyed art, they liked going to those classes. Well, what they did was then make a pullout for math and a pullout for reading. But as a result, and so I asked, they funded it through the art. And so it's gone. It's going to be short-lived. But what amazed me was they were so improved, wanting to talk about their test scores. And so their IMASA beginning and IMASA middle. And so they were telling us how great it was. And so I said, but that's really good. I says, but in Berlin, we have shown a lot of improvement, but we've not gone that far. But I says, ours goes back to our principals and our teachers, that they're doing a good job. And I said, we were better. I didn't say we were better, but our test scores were better than theirs. We're better than theirs. But what that made me say is, what we're doing is right. We just have to keep doing it. But that was an interesting take on how they were going to look at it. And their test scores were a lot lower than ours.
That's interesting.
Their test scores were a lot lower than ours. So, and then the last one, I've got to be very careful here. Anytime you're at a conference, you learn as much outside the conference as you do inside the conference.
Ooh.
So we're having breakfast with some other board members.
Oh, my, oh, goodness.
We're having breakfast with some other board members. And we found out that we as a board are very lucky because we work together. We don't fight each other in open board meetings. We work together. We're very lucky that we have different opinions, but it's not that I'm going to go grab your throat if you disagree with me. So I think that was good. And then the other thing dealt with how we deal with the superintendent and the role the superintendent plays with the board and what role the board plays with the superintendent. It was just a very, in my case, a very eye-opening experience for about 40 minutes.
Which class was this?
Breakfast. Oh, with that awful red
The
chili.
one with the apple ready.
And I'll stop there.
Breakfast club.
And I'll stop there. Anybody else have anything to say? Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
Next item on the agenda, we have action items. The first one being,
I'm sorry, we got to read.
oh, sorry, yes. Getting ahead of myself. Continuing with board reports, we have the first read policy G 1600, staff participation in political activities.
Okay, the committee has worked on this, I think, for 2 or 3 months now.
Yes, sir.
Maybe longer. Well, we started working on it in November.
Yeah.
So we have looked at it. We've looked at what other districts do, especially districts that have representatives that work in the schools. So this is a very detailed example of how we're going to deal with staff participation in political activities. It deals with teachers, administrators, et cetera, who are going to run for an elected office. And I think it's a good start for us, and then how the administration, we talked about our regulations already, so it's a good move. Are there any questions about it?
Is this an existing policy or?
No, this is
Okay,
going to
brand new
be,
policy.
we have a policy now,
Yes.
but we are going to change that policy. It's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as clear cut, yeah. This one is very specific about what you can do. Any other questions? Mr. Superintendent?
Are we, or do we want to ask questions at this time, or?
I think you can either ask them now or at the second reading, either one.
Oh, okay, well, I just had, I think you guys did a very good job and everything. On B, the district shall alert the families of students assigned to teachers who plan to take political leave during the course of the school year, so families may request an alternative teacher for their student. I think that's fine, but the principals and so on are gonna have to really adjust to that, perhaps. I don't know, or have a really good substitute. And when I was substituting, we do have good substitutes out there. Got all lines. We got good, medium, and not so good. And that, or reassign those students to another teacher, you're saying. So I think that's
That's what we're saying.
yeah, that's fine. But I
Because
think
the
that's
election's in November, so that semester, they would not be out until January or sometime in January. So if they want to, they would have a chance to have a different teacher for that whole semester.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
just,
okay.
not just during the
Okay.
teacher's gone. They would
Yeah,
have to
just
have
during the
a
whole
teacher
semester.
the whole semester.
Okay, that's better. I see that.
At least that's the way I read it.
That's
Am
the way
I?
I read it also. And also, Mr. Lindberg, as Mr. President said, we have that time to plan. If we know that we have the time to plan, we can hopefully, knock on wood, find that high-quality substitute that can manage a class for a long period of time as opposed to day here, day there.
Yeah, that's good, but I'm just bringing that out, that
Sure.
that's gonna be a situation.
Yes.
By assuming, the assigned teacher who plans to take political leave, we're assuming that that teacher is the one that's running for the office.
No, we're not gonna do anything about running. It's when they've been elected.
Because
See, they're not excused from school for political activity, for, election processes you can't do it during the school year.
Okay.
You can't do it during your school time. So for you to, if you're running for election and you work for the schools, you either have to take a personal day or because you cannot carry on electing activities
That's what I was
before
trying-
the election. Now, after the election is what we're talking about. When you have to go serve in the legislature, or you have to go serve in the county commission, or you have to go serve in like that.
No, you can't be an employee and be an elected official.
Yes, you can.
You can.
Yes. We have one at the high school.
Yes, right now.
Tanya,
Currently,
Ms.
The one that
Maribel,
ate- She's the
Representative
one that
Maribel.
came and said hi to
Oh,
us
that's
that
right,
night.
that's right.
I went to the breakfast.
She sat
I
with
was
us.
completely. oh, that's all right.
Okay,
So, one of us can be a teacher?
no,
That's what I'm understanding
No.
here.
this has to do only with political activities. There is a state statute that says if you're a teacher, you cannot be on the school board, a state statute.
Right.
This has nothing to do with that.
This has nothing to do with school board then?
No,
No.
no,
Oh, okay.
no, no.
See, I thought this was a school board policy.
No, this
So
is-
School board member.
Teacher,
Or running for.
members of the
Okay.
district that
Elected-
draw payday.
Because it says here, district employees who seek to hold elective or appointed offices that comply with the following. It doesn't really say here for school board or for
We're not employees.
district employees who seek to hold, okay, that's the difference, that a school employee can run for.
Yes, we are.
No,
Wow.
we're not. Ms. Torres, will you please tell Mr.
I understand now.
We are not school employees. We are school employees only because tax purposes require that. Has nothing to do with anything else other than tax purposes.
Actually, in this thing that says 10 thing board members wish
It's
the
that-
public would understand, I guess I don't understand that part. Okay, I got
Okay,
it.
okay. Any other questions?
No,
Okay, that was our first reading of G 1600, staff participation in political activities. Mr. Sanders.
Next item on the agenda, we have the action items. The first one being consideration of approval for school equipment outdoor classroom for Rio Grande Elementary in the amount of $80,701.60 from Fund 28211. I recommend that you approve this purchase.
We have a recommendation for consideration of approval for school equipment outdoor classroom for Rio Grande Elementary in the amount of $80,701.60 from Fund 28211. Is there a motion for this recommendation?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the purchase of school equipment outdoor classroom for Rio Grande Elementary in the amount of $80,701.60 from Fund 28211.
We have a recommendation, motion from Mr. Garley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Is there discussion?
Yes, what are we buying?
Ms.
for
Manning, Ms.
this?
Baca, would you like
For
to
80,000,
address this?
because I know it's expensive to do this, because we still haven't, at the family school, have equipment for them very, very much.
Miss,
Mr. President, board members, Mr. Superintendent, what this outdoor learning center is a canopy, storage area, and the landscaping that needs to be done for an outdoor learning center. This is being done through CARES money, not CARES money, but ELC, which is also COVID money that we got through health services for things related to COVID-safe practices. Since we were no longer doing testing, we had the money available. And so it's an outdoor learning center for Rio Grande.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Baca, if we didn't use it for COVID testing or some type of outdoor
Learning
classroom,
center, we would
it.
lose the money altogether.
Okay.
okay.
Okay?
It's not equipment for PE or for
No,
recreation. This is,
It's misleading, I think.
it's a outdoor classroom,
it's an outdoor classroom. It's,
but it has to be listed as school equipment
it's,
to qualify.
right, because this particular part is the canopy that they'll need for the outdoor classroom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Garley, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Lemberg?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes. Mr.
Next.
Superintendent.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. President, is consideration of approval of purchase through Year Out Mechanical for replacing existing exhaust fans with new utility exhaust fans for BHS welding area in the amount of $66,564 plus New Mexico gross receipts tax, and this comes from Fund 27400, which is a correction from 24700.
274.
We have a recommendation for the superintendent for consideration of approval of the purchase through Year Out Mechanical for replacing existing exhaust fans with new utility exhaust fans for BHS welding area, the amount of $66,564 from the NMGRT Fund, 27400. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we consider the approval of the purchase through Year Out Mechanical for replacing existing fans with new utility exhaust fans for BHS welding area in the amount of $66,564 plus gross receipts tax from funds 24700, whatever.
27400.
Whatever number it's supposed to
We have a
be.
motion by Mr. Cordova. Is there a second?
Second it.
Second by Mr. Limber. Any discussion?
Yes. I see on the handout that we were given by Year Out Mechanical, they have a lot of exclusions down there. And they have, one is the bid bond. First of all, what is a bid bond, and is this company bonded? They don't say anywhere in here that they're bonded. And they're gonna bring in a lot of equipment and so forth to hoist those. They're gonna bring in a big crane to hoist them up and everything else, which is fine. They need to put them on the top. And we certainly need that, because I wanna see our welding program go forward. But it looks like to me, with all these exclusions, we have some hidden costs here with the design of engineering fees, including fees for drawing and for electrical equipment, and workman's compensation. Are they gonna make us pay for that, all that additional stuff? liquidity of consequential damages, whatever in the heck that is. We have all this extra stuff. Ms. Cordova, you were on this for a while. Is this,
All that is legitimate.
is this usual that we have
Yes.
all this other stuff?
First of all, year-round mechanical would not be on our premises if they weren't bonded. That's the first thing. And, yes, all these are just costs that are, they're in every contract. All these,
The language?
languages, it's just a typical language in a contract for bid bond, retainage, engineering fees, design, all that's gonna be part of, Dennis Chavez when we're go into that.
So that'll be part of it. Well, why is that?
Requirements to provide additional insured status, that's just part of the language.
If it is part of it, why do they say that's an exclusion though? It's excluded.
Okay.
At the bottom of the page, it says it's excluded.
This is the total amount, the 66,006.
Yes.
So I don't know why that it says exclusions there, but do you have an answer to that, Ms. Torres?
I don't, I'm not involved, I'm sorry,
We
Mr.
don't.
Cedillo's the one who received
But
this,
that-
I'm not involved.
If that's the total, I'm not understanding what that would be.
I mean, it should be, inclusive
That
in
should-
it, if they're gonna
that should
do
be
all that other
included.
stuff, it should be included in the contract, and if we have to pay more than the 66,000, so be it, but it should be in the contract, rather than excluded.
That, I'm not sure why they're,
The way I understand this, and I don't know Mr. Lindberg.
Okay,
Unfortunately, Mr. Cedillo not being able to be here tonight, I don't know
Okay,
that we can
how-
answer your questions.
let me ask this. Is this, must this be done tonight?
This particular funding that this is gonna become from expires June 30th, and we've already asked for an extension because we were supposed to submit a plan on January. So we've already asked for an extension for this particular fund. It's the Junior Bill Fund for the CTE program.
Which unfortunately was supposed to have gotten to us in July of 2022 and did not reach us. And oops, our bad. And I'm mimicking the state,
Right.
not us. Didn't reach us until late January 2023.
So if we don't use this money, we're gonna lose.
if, I have a
Okay.
question. The amount that we're gonna be approving is the $66,564, is that correct?
Yes,
Plus the grocery receipts tax.
Plus the gross receipts tax.
that's what you're
But
approving,
if-
yes,
What's that?
yes.
So if for some reason they come back, we can change this. If they start, well, or we find out what they mean by exclusions. I don't know if that's,
Well, once we've acted, we have to come back and revisit the whole thing and do away with it and then have it on the agenda to redo it. We just can't, we have to do that in terms of the process. But, I'm,
If,
I
if
think.
we're gonna lose the money, I'm in favor of voting for it.
But Mr.
but I'd
Lemberg,
like to see the other
I
one.
think your question is valid, but I too agree that we need to vote on it and then get the questions asked and then get them answered.
Yes.
And then if we need to revisit this,
Yeah,
we can come back and,
or if we need to get more money, then okay, fine, because we need this. This is a great program, and
It's
we
very
do need
needed.
it. And I'm not trying to be hard or
It's
out
a
of line
safety
here,
issue.
but I just think that if this was, all these things here that are excluded, it should have, if they were gonna do it, it should be in the, rather than 66,000, maybe be 80,000 we were approving. I
The
don't
only
know.
thing I would say to that, Mr. Lindberg, is this. And I'm going off what Mr. Cedillo's told me. Maybe Mr. Cordova, you can jump in. This is not replacing HVAC type of units. These are more simpler. And it's pretty much just taking the existing units out and attaching new units. There's not gonna be a lot of reconstructing. If you look at the quote, we did ask them to make sure that the vents, so these are the individual welding stations that pull the fumes out, so the students are safe.
You bet.
Mr. Cedillo did ask them to look at the individual, hoods, or to make sure that those are properly sealed, and that is
It's in
not
there.
excluded.
and I hate to say it, but I wasn't here at that meeting when you discussed this. That was that meeting that is that when they discussed this? I guess I wasn't.
We didn't get a chance to
did not
send this
discuss
No,
through.
this is not even discussed.
No.
I have a question too. I know that Year Mechanical does a lot of work
They
for
do.
us. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Have we ever had any exclusions on any other work that they've done?
I think that's a question that,
I can look into
We
it, I
need
can't
to-
answer it right now.
I think that's a legitimate question, just like Mr. Lemberg is. We need to vote on this,
Yes.
and then if we have to revisit it because of whatever it is, then we revisit it. I think that's the easiest way.
And so something else came up that I want to make sure we're transparent on. This did not go in front of construction committee simply because of time factor.
Right.
Because of supply chain issues, making sure we have to have this build
Because we-
completed by May 15th so that we can get it in for request for, it's not an
And
RFR,
and
it's a request for payment.
How
That's the
did-
way this one's handled.
how did this come up? I mean, are they not working?
They're not
period?
working.
They're
They're not working.
They're not
My
working.
understanding is that the ventilation
Correct,
is
Ms.
not
Lawson?
working.
They are not working right now.
Okay? Any more discussion? No. Mr. Gardy, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Lemberg?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion passes. Mr. Superintendent?
Next item of the agenda is consideration of approval, purchase through McGraw-Hill for social studies adoption in the amount of $560,463.01. I recommend that you approve this purchase.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent for consideration of approval for the purchase through McGraw-Hill for social studies adoption in the amount of $560,463.01. Is there a motion to that effect? I move we adopt consideration of approval for the purchase through McGraw-Hill for social studies adoption in the amount of $560,463.01. Motion by Mr. Danner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tucker. Discussion.
Yes.
Is there any exclusions in this?
There's lots of them. We don't know half of them.
Why did we select this group?
You want to go through
Over
the process,
somebody
Ms.
else.
Ms. Sanchez?
Okay. Now let me, go ahead, Ms. Sanchez.
So, the last board meeting, I went through the process of the surveys. We started in October with community at the library. Then we went into the teachers, October, November. Then we had a focus group, that came in, after all the surveys.
And how many were on the focus group?
There were,
At
it
least
was
20?
About 20 to 25 members, I could pull up the list, that represented community members, teachers, principals, and so it was well-rounded. And then after that focus group, we came together to hear presentations from the two that were narrowed down from the surveys, from community and teachers. And there were two companies that did K through 12. After the final focus group, they went out and surveyed their staffs, and majority, with almost 100%.
It was
It
100%.
was 100% from that focus group went into McGraw-Hill, and that was the process.
Did they actually look at the books and read
Yes.
them?
They did.
The books were out at the library for a month. They were out here
Here.
for 2
Yep,
months,
'cause
and
I
at
looked at
every
them.
site.
They were at
every-
the sites. too.
Every site had a K through 12 curriculum since
He was
from
reading
October to
one.
December.
I have a question. When was the last time we adopted this? Social science?
2012, I believe,
It was way
maybe before
that.
then.
That's still on
It
time.
had to be about at least 15 years because the same
Yeah.
books are there.
Right. Okay.
When my girls were there.
Okay, I have a question for you. Does this curriculum talk about world history? Does it teach about the Holocaust?
I would have to look at every.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I want to make sure that this board, unlike many boards in the nation, especially in that thing, that finger down there someplace, that they're talking about things that they're taking out. I want to make sure that if we're purchasing this, that is in, I'm sure it is.
It's being the US history part
It
of it.
it would be in World History too,
part.
World War II.
But I'm just, that's, from my view, that's a critical aspect, because we are forgetting some things that happened in the past that change what we're doing now. I mean, I've lived in this town a long time, and, well, let's just say that. We need to make sure that we are,
What I can tell you is this, this isn't a criticism, you guys can ask us about different events. I can't guarantee you that every one of those events is. But when we talk to these textbook publishers, what we were clear about was we wanted facts. We wanted history taught
Okay.
on facts, not opinions,
okay?
not what this historian's take was, not what this historian's take was. Give us the facts, and then if you're gonna use firsthand accounts, that's fine. That is a fact. That's the way that the person that was there experienced it. And in vetting with the committee, they felt that this textbook publisher from K through 12 did the better
Okay.
job.
Let me ask, okay, Mr. Cordova?
No, I'm just curious, is New Mexico history taught in our schools?
It's embedded.
It's embedded.
It's being removed from
It's
the,
been removed from the
as a
graduation.
standalone.
How is this gonna be different than the state curriculum that the state put out for us?
There's state standards, and this is the resource that supports the state standards.
It's the books that I reviewed is fine, but it's very heavy on indigenous people. Very, very heavy. And that's fine with me, because my first love when my nanny was a Nez Pierce from Haskell Institute for one whole summer. Fell in love with her, loved her. And then all the way up in high school, Native Americans and our teams that I played on, University of Kansas, Billy Mills and Tiger, all of them. And the last, which was a sad thing, is U.S. Marshal hauling indigenous people to federal institutions, because it's a federal crime on Indian reservations. They got like 200 laws. It's ridiculous. Anyway, and today, I support a school in Chamberlain, South Dakota, St. Joseph's School, that has close to 200 Native American children in it. And those are the same names as some of them that I hauled off to prison years ago. And I don't want to see that happen to those. I think it's good that we have this. Many people will probably oppose to that, but and the Native American stories that are in there, it's very good. And I think they were very fair. On one book, it said that the Hispanic people were sometimes friendly with the Indians and good, and other times they weren't. They didn't go into some of the details that they could have. So I think that was fair to not cause conflict in the classroom. So I think it's another thing too, I don't know if the other board members have, but I've got letters from the legislators. Some of them have asked me to vote against it.
Against what?
Curriculum.
And
The guy from Farmington.
Well, what
and
plan?
so forth. But, the only reason they've given is it's been conflict between the Native Americans and the Hispanic people. They haven't included the African Americans or Caucasians in there. Mr. Tucker, not you and me, I don't know why, they include the others, so. But it is a, I don't know if it will be here, but it is a controversial measure and a controversial thing. I was glad to see that you did, I praise you for the process. Thank you for repeating it again to the folks. That's very nice. I think it was a good process. I'm glad that teachers, administrators, and everybody was included, and you put it out and had a vote or a say on it. I think that that's very good. So the pushback there should not be from any of our employees if you did all that.
One of the things that we wanted to make sure we did was have a uniform resource across the district. So that way, we know that kids move within schools, especially at the elementary level. So I get used to one resource at Central, and now I'm going to use a different resource if I go to Dennis Chavez, where it also helps us to provide better quality professional development, because we're not doing this professional development for La Merced because they're using this one, and Belen Middle School is using this one. It makes it hard when you're doing all those different ones.
Well, one of the things to notice is how we learn by repetition. I noticed in the 4th grade book, 8th grade book, and some of the other books, we have the same people that are named all the way through, which is fine, because it's part of our history. I thought that was interesting that we had that named all the way through. That was good.
From our administration, the pedagogy of this particular curriculum meets our needs, meets our principals' needs, meets our teachers' needs.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, that's my vote, okay. Any other discussions?
Just a reminder, books don't teach kids. As a band director, there's $10,000 to $20,000 worth of music up there. It can't teach itself. The magic is within the instructor and the instruction. I think we need to remember that, and those that are having a conniption over the printed book, it's just a resource. The magic comes with the teacher.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Any other discussion? Mr. Garley, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Lemberg?
Yes,
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes. Mr. Superintendent?
Next item on the agenda, Mr. President, is consideration and approval of bars. The first one being Fund 29102, Private Direct Grants, Facebook Meta. This is a maintenance bar, and it's for $0. The second one being Fund 27502, CTE, and that is, what does I stand for?
Increase.
Increase, thank you, and I'm tired. And that's for $3,148. Next one being Fund 27400, Intergovernmental Junior Bill, CTE. Initial budget, $100,000. Next one, 25157, Child Care Block Grant from CYFD. That's an increase of $137,838. Next one, 24330, ARP ESSER 3 CDFA. This is a maintenance bar for $0. Next one, 28189, Grads Childcare, an increased bar for $4,364. Fund 31701, Capital Improvements, SB 9 Local. It's a decrease, $54,368. Final one being Fund 22000, Athletics. That's an initial budget, $43,768. I recommend that you approve these bars.
We have a recommendation for the superintendent for consideration of approval of the bars 29102, 27502, 27400, 25157, 24330, 28189, 31701, and 22000. Do I have a motion for the acceptance of the bars?
I so move we accept the bars as read by the superintendent and by our president of the board.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tucker. Is there a discussion?
I just,
What are they for?
one question.
Go ahead, sir.
Just an explanation on intergovernmental junior bill CTE for $100,000.
That is, so our House members have junior bill money where they can fund what they, pet projects is the way I would call it. We got this money because of Representative Brian Baca last year. Funded, he has a passion for CTE. You guys should get together. And he decided to fund us for $100,000 last year. And that's where that money came from.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Awesome.
How about our career technical education for $3,000? What are we doing with spending for that?
This particular bar is an increased bar. It's the final carryover for that fund to use for all our CTE programs.
Carryover.
Carryover.
Carryover, okay.
Increased bar.
Thank you, ma'am.
Once again, just an explanation, these bars is money that we're getting in, not,
It depends if it's an increased bar,
Or
a
maintenance,
decreased bar,
right.
maintenance bar. As you see, there is one decreased bar where we're
Right.
decreasing our budget for 54,000.
that's
The one
good.
that have a zero is just a maintenance bar. You're just adjusting line items to match actuals.
And
Budget to
Capital
actuals.
improvements, we're taking 55 or 54,000 out. of the-
Yes, that's a decrease. When we did the initial budget, it was over projected by 54,368.
we just didn't receive the money from the county.
We didn't receive the anticipated revenue that we got in taxes, so we have to decrease it by 54,000.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussions?
So, yeah,
Tucker?
I don't see band here, but I do see athletics.
Band doesn't have their own funding, sir.
We should change that,
It's an activity.
co-curricular, but I digress. What are we doing? Do we know what that increase, or what's gonna happen with that? Are we getting something new here?
For athletics?
Yes,
Those are the gate receipts revenues that they've received that we have to budget in.
okay,
We use them for officials and that type of expenditures.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Oh, that's good.
Mr. Garley, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Ledberg?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes. Mr. Superintendent, it's mine. As allowed by the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, on occasion, a quorum of board members will attend the same function, including those held at school sites at the district level, as well as sports functions, conferences, workshops, trainings, and community events. Members agree to refrain from discussing and/or acting upon board issues in those settings. Mr.
Next
Superintendent,
item on the agenda, Mr. President, advanced planning, the first one being the Finance Subcommittee meeting, February 22nd, 2023, 9 a.m.
Okay, that's fine. Okay with me.
Construction Committee meeting, February 22nd, 2023, 10 a.m. Policy Committee meeting, February 22nd, 2023, 11 a.m. And the next regular board meeting, February 28th, 2023, 5 p.m.
and we're gonna see if we can get Regina, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Um,
Mr. Cordova?
we have a construction committee tomorrow?
No,
The 22nd.
No, I'm for the
Oh,
DCE.
Dennis Chavez, yes.
Dennis-
That's at Logston.
What time is that gonna be?
1:30?
1:30?
Yes, sir. And we're at Logston, Mr. Corbett.
Any other discussion?
Board comments?
Board comments, Mr. Garley?
Take that back.
I attended the 7th and 8th grade basketball game 2 weeks ago against Los Lunas. And first of all, those pads that we put on the wall really look nice, and they're very long and very protective. So we didn't have anybody run into them, but that was good. The second thing, that floor is awesome. It's just beautiful. It reminded, well, not quite, but I did play on that basketball gym, Mr. Danner.
So did I.
So did Mr. Danner. That's how old that gym is for us to play there. I played as an 8th grader. I think he played high school. But
Played there as a 7th grader. Well, but a thing about, we need to remember about this floor. It's, not much of it's left.
No.
We do not have much of it left. It looks really good now. But we've got to start thinking construction-wise about repairing that, replacing that floor.
You can only send it down so much, right?
It's, and it's about there. It's about there.
because this one, it looked really good. 7th grade won, 8th grade lost, but they were very competitive games. So
Good.
that's good news for our middle school.
Yes.
And while we're talking about floors, it'd be nice to also consider the stage floor at the auditorium, so we can just put all that together. Just throwing that out there.
So noted, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you
Mr.
much.
Tucker, let's see what happens, because I've learned from Ms. Torres, don't count your chickens until they're hatched. But
Talking about floors.
there may be the possibility of some junior bill money from this session that will address your wish.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Any other comments? Da, 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 da. Adjourned.
Are we off before we?